All right, awesome. Hey, this is Rob from Rob's School of Music. I'm here once again with the
Oh.
legendary Mark Lettieri, one of my favorite guitar players and all around really nice guy.
Oh, well, thanks, Rob. It's good to be back, man.
Yeah, awesome, man. Let's center this so I'm not there. I am. All right. Cool, dude. So we've been doing the interviews on Instagram, and now we're on StreamYard. So we're on currently Twitch, YouTube, and my Facebook page, and then we will turn all of this into a podcast afterwards.
All
And
right.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and just talk about stuff. So
Sounds good, man.
my first one is kind of the thing I start off with everyone because I think it's the most diverse in answers, but the most same answer at the same time, if that makes any sense. So
All right.
a lot of our students are, younger, not necessarily in age, but just as musicians in the beginning phases of their career, or musical journey. And when it comes to playing live, which is like I can't even remember what that word means, but
Right.
when it was a possibility, and ideally one day when it's a possibility again, nerves and stage fright are a big factor. Do you have any tips on overcoming that sort of stuff?
Right. Um, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I guess there's certain things that I try to do somewhat regularly on, if I'm on a tour or something, but, it's strange. Every night is so different that, like, you just kind of hope for the best. You know, oh man, that's a tough one. Um, yeah, I think I got over the like fear of playing in front of people uh, early on, just because I've been doing it for so long. But I think now I am more like struggling with getting outside of my head, sort of on the bandstand, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
The fact that the audience is there, kind of, I don't notice it. I'm actually more conscious of like what the other musicians might think of what I'm doing, which in some cases can sort of psych you out. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's interesting. Like if I'm doing a tour under my own name or something, I'm usually dealing with all kinds of other things before I even get on stage. So sometimes I don't even have that time to kind of like mellow out and relax, which in some cases can be good because then it's like, okay, time to play the gig. Whereas on other tours, maybe if I'm a sideman or I don't have as much responsibility, I have time to kind of like psych myself out because I'm just sort of sitting there with nothing to do. And so that cannot, sometimes it's not good, but yeah, I think you just have to like do it a lot, you know. So, and just not be afraid of mistakes. Maybe that would be the
Yes,
thing.
that right there, I think, is the best part of it. I always try and tell people, I say there's no bad notes, which is like when
Right.
someone's a beginner, like that's great, I can play anything, but obviously that's not what I mean by that. But if you make a mistake, don't be afraid of it. Use it, learn from it.
Yeah, or at least don't make it obvious that you made a mistake. So,
Cool, awesome. No, that's super helpful. Um, what was the first uh, album and or concert that made you say, "Wow, this is what I want to do"?
right. Hmm. I'm thinking back to a lot of my first concerts, and they were all really cool for different reasons. The first like concert I ever went to, well, yeah, it was the first concert, was Weezer and No Doubt,
Oh
way
yeah,
back in the day. Yeah.
yeah,
And I wasn't like a huge fan of either band necessarily. I mean, I liked the music, and if a song came on the radio, I would check it out. And I knew how to play some of them just from playing in bands and rocking in garages with my friends. But I think what struck me about that gig is it was the first time I had heard an electric guitar amplified at stadium volume. It was at the amphitheater in Mountain View, the Shoreline Amphitheater, and it was just really. I still remember the first chord of Weezer's set where it just kind of hits you right here. You feel that subwoofer and the mains, and you're like, oh, this is something else. I like this. This is cool. I want to have that power. So that was really kind of a neat thing. And then as far as like records, I mean, Jimi Hendrix's "Are You Experienced" was huge to me, just because I had never heard a guitar sound like that before. And then some of the first records I bought from like, I know I've talked about him a lot, but Joe Satriani's The Extremist album, I think, was the first time I had heard anything without words. And it was like just cool guitar playing. And I was like, oh, this is something maybe I could do, you know? But then, you know, a record like Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions has all those really incredible chord progressions that at the time I didn't even know existed. And so that was another one that just kind of blew my mind a lot. And, you know, teenager years are a really great time to discover music because everything's new and fresh and exciting, especially if you're listening to stuff as you're learning an instrument.
Sure.
So, yeah, and I still go back and listen to stuff I found when I was 14 and 15.
Isn't that so crazy? Like, I love watching turning a student onto something, you know. My job, I get to watch someone hear Jimi Hendrix the first time or turn him on to a Metallica record or something. And like, I think those teenage years, that maybe 13 to 16, 17, what we listen to sticks with us at a different level because there's like an experiential component happening. Like,
sure,
our firsts are happening in our lives. So
yeah,
it never goes away. It's so cool.
Yeah. Totally,
think,
man.
We may have touched on that the last time, is No Doubt was my first concert as well.
Oh, cool.
So we can't be too far off in age there. And
Yeah.
the subs, I got right in front of the stage, what I thought was the stage, but it was a row of subwoofers, you know, like the side of the stage. And I had a headache for days, but it was my first time, like you said, feeling the music.
Right.
People were moshing to like Don't Speak and like the softer stuff. I was like, what is this? It's crazy.
Right. Well, I remember also at that gig, Tom Dumont, the guitar player, and No Doubt played his guitar behind his head on a solo. And that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody do that, you know, not on television, you know, watching Jimmy do it. So it was cool. It was like, I was like, oh, okay, this is rock and roll. Like, that's what this is. That's what this is. I like this. So, and, you know, I mean, there were also, I remember seeing a band from some of the guys from my church. They had like another band that they would play in outside of church where they would do all like R&B and funk covers. And I remember seeing that and just had never really seen that done live, and watching that crowd dance and everyone bob their heads. And that was, so I was like, okay, that feels really good too. So we're gonna have to figure out how to live between this guitar rock thing and this R&B thing that we, you know, all these things. I was like, well, I want to do that too. And that, and then this over here.
Yeah. That brings me to what my next question was going to be, is so many people as guitarists, not to generalize, but, you know, they're coming from the Zeppelin, Metallica, you know, the hard rock realm is what
Sure.
sent them into guitar. But there's so many elements to your playing that I think the accessibility of players like you now is so exciting for young guitarists, because I didn't learn what the seventh chord was until college. Shame, I will admit that. And now I wouldn't know what to do without that, you know, in my vocabulary. So where along your journey did you pivot, or did it start right off the bat to more real guitar playing and not?
Well, you know, it's all real guitar playing.
Yeah.
I think.
Air quotes.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to learn stuff, and if there was something that I didn't know how to do, it was almost like, oh, I need to know how to do that. I mean, maybe it was like me feeding my ego that I thought I needed to know how to do everything, but in a sense, like, it helped me learn a bunch of stuff, because if there was something that I didn't know, I was like, well, I need to know how to do that, because then I can know how to do it. And the other guy in my band won't know how to do it, you know, or whatever it is. No, that's a silly way of looking at it. But there was definitely like a hunger for knowledge of the unknown. And so I would always seek out stuff that, I mean, I had to like it first, you know, and I think I would think I was born with a palette that was broad anyway. I mean, I grew up with the different kinds of music in my house. I mean, not like heavy metal and stuff like that, but definitely a heavy diet of rock, pop, and soul music. You know, all the old rock and roll, all the Motown, like that was always played in my house. And so I was used to hearing different things. And so when I was pursuing guitar, it was like, oh, that's a chord I don't know, and I like it the way it sounds. Let's learn it. You know, I remember just I had a really great guitar teacher in high school that could play anything and was cool with me wanting to learn whatever. You know, we would do a Steve Vai song one day and a Steely Dan song the next day.
Wow, that's a great teacher.
And so yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I think we're talking about seventh chords. I think the first time I really got hip to how you use minor seven chords was learning Steely Dan's Josie. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I lost that thought. That thought will come back.
That's okay.
Let's pivot to gear. I'm looking at all your pedals back there.
All right.
Last we spoke, you were assembling a new shelf. Is that the newer shelf or?
I think this is the new. Well, it's not really a new shelf. I just added more rows to it. So I tried to divide things up. I'm moving my head so you can see it. Divide things up by type of pedal. So let's see. Well, the top is strings, and then it's like overdrives and stuff like that, and then it's more overdrives and stuff like that, and then the next two are like that's like modulation, delay. Yeah, so it's basically like loud rock noises and then weird ambient stuff sounds, and then the bottom is another pedal board and just big stuff that doesn't fit in the other two.
That's awesome. So I'm gonna ask a question that you and I know the answer to, but let's pretend we don't.
All right.
You need more than one of, say, an overdrive pedal or a phaser pedal.
Why do you need more than one?
Yes.
Because they're awesome. No, man, they all really do sound different. And yeah, there are some that I gravitate towards others than others, but I did a session this afternoon actually on a contemporary Christian worship project, and I used 3 different overdrive pedals. So I'm glad that they were all on my board. I used 2 different delay pedals. I used 3 different reverb settings. You know, I'm just kind of going through what I did today.
Right.
I did only just use 1 tremolo. But I don't have that many tremolo pedals.
What is your your go-tos when it comes to each type of pedal?
I mean, I've had kind of the same stuff more or less on my main board for a while. Man, I don't know. You know, I really like the Rocket pedal overdrive stuff. I mean, I've been using those for a long time. But there's so much great gear out there. I use some TC Electronic stuff. I use Dunlop products a lot. You know, and then there's just kind of like the random things that only this pedal does. Right. You know, and I'll bring those in if I need that sound for something. And then I may never touch it again for 2 months. So I'm gonna make it more complicated for you. I apologize. All right. Fans,
Desert Island pedal board.
Desert Island pedal board?
Because I think last time I asked you if you could pick one guitar and one amp. So let's assembling a board of one of each major effect: an overdrive, a delay, a reverb, a phaser, a flanger, a chorus.
Man, probably what's on my board right now. Yeah. I think, you know. Yeah, it's the J Rocket drives. I think there's like a TC delay. There's an MXR carbon copy. There's a TC reverb. There's a MXR phase 90. You know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I got a lot of stuff. Is the shit in tune? Yes. Roll tape. A rousing endorsement. There we go.
But it's there's, again, it comes down, I think, to accessibility. I think kids or generalize kids. People who start out playing guitar today, in their pocket, they can look up any sound any pedal, anything, music stores are going out of business. People just YouTube pedal and then order it on Reverb.
Right.
So, at the school here, back when people could come to the school, we have a case out in front that has, and give or take, my pedal collection. 20 years of things I've amassed, and we let students take them out, kind of like a library. You want to see what this is? Try the Phase 90. Okay,
yeah, that's a great idea.
And people totally dig it, but then the parents are sitting there. We don't sell pedals here, so it's not as though I'm saying, okay, try it, then buy it from me, buy it, and the parents are like, but why? And I think it's something that if you're not a guitar player, it's difficult to understand why we need so many guitars, so many amps, so many pedals.
Yeah. I mean, do I need all this stuff? No. But I have it. So I mean, and a lot of this comes from endorsements and things like that. Like, people send me stuff to try out. And sometimes I send it back. Sometimes I keep it if it has that specific thing that only that thing does, And so, I mean, and I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to do that. But, yeah, I mean, there's kind of like my sort of go-to stuff that I sort of always find myself going back to, for all the pedals that do, like I said, for all the things that do the crazy things. Well, I don't do the crazy things all the time. So It's not going to be on my pedal board. Right. I mean, I'll use it. It'll get used for a specific thing. But, I think I just have to kind of like compartmentalize all the kinds of gigs that I do and like what works for those gigs.
Right.
And it seems to be kind of a lot of the sort of old reliable stuff at this point. So,
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Are you a effects loop guy, or you just put everything in front?
Nah, I just put everything in front of the amp.
How do you control your delay pedals so they don't get wacky on you?
Well, the amps that I use have pretty high clean headroom, so that's not really an issue. Or I just turn the mixed knob down. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've never really owned an amp that had an effects. I mean, I think I have some that do, but you know what? Like, I think maybe some people's musical experiences with gear are different than mine. Like, I never had the time to deal with a channel switching amp. I never had the time to deal with plugging in extra stuff. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, this works, gig, go. And so I've kind of built my kind of sound around that, but
keep it pretty clean and then just use pedals.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, pretty much like if I can find like a 50 watt clean amp, 50 watts or higher. I mean, and even some 40 watt ones are fine. I mean, hell, 22 watts if you're not playing super loud is going to be fine with pedals and stuff like that. So I'm pretty low tech. I mean, for all the stuff that's here, I'm pretty low tech, actually. I don't like manuals.
On the work, I just got an Axe Effects a couple of months back, and I refuse to read anything about it. So like today, I just figured out that I made a patch, and I figured out that if I pressed enough buttons on front, I can make the knobs on front the knobs on the phaser pedal I had in the chain.
Oh, so that's cool.
Hook it up to the computer and edit it that way. I wanted it to be tactile. But I'm sure if I just Googled it, it would have happened much quicker than the month it took me to figure out how to do that. So.
Right. Yeah.
No
yeah. But that's the thing. That's kind of the beauty about gear is that everyone's choices are different. Everyone's methods are different.
Sure.
Like the thought of like programming a show with MIDI patches and stuff like that. Like I can't wrap my head around that, but there are people that do that. And I can't say like, that's silly. I mean, that's what they do. That's what works, and I theoretically could do that with my Kemper, but I just plug into the front of it and play the gig or the recession or whatever it is,
I'm actually a Kemper. That's a good question then too, because I just got a Kemper for my home little small studio thing.
Cool.
Do you put pedals in front of that, or do you use?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Perfect.
Dude, I can't even remember how to set up an effects loop. I don't know. Remember if the send goes to the return. I don't know. Like,
I used to have to duct tape my pedals, my cables, different colors. At gigs.
Yeah, see, you're doing too much work. It's too much work. No, I'm just being silly. Yeah, I've never done it, but like I said, with the Kemper, like if I'm at a session, I'll find like a good clean amp sound, and then use my pedals. Maybe if I want to turn up the gain on the profile, I'll do that a little bit. And then a lot of times, like with delays and stuff like that, I just won't use. I'll have the engineer do that.
Right.
Or if I'm here recording at home, I'll just do it with a plug-in on the computer. Because then that way I can turn it off.
Sure.
If I don't want it or something, so it's not like printed. But
right.
Yeah, I mean the session I did this afternoon, I just went straight into a Kemper, and I used one profile the whole time.
Cool.
So
you got it figured out. I love it. Very cool.
I don't know. Probably not. I'm sure somebody's watching this going like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And maybe I don't. But
got the balls to say that. Just listen to your tone, and obviously incorrect.
Well, the jury's out on that one. I read the comments.
I'm trying to read my words here, and I can't read my handwriting. It's the worst. When it comes to like theory and wrapping your head around it, when you multi-part question, when
Okay.
you're going to play a solo, for example,
Okay.
are you hearing in your mind what you want to happen? Are you pulling it out of your ass? Is the combination? Are you doing multiple takes and then comping it together? Like, do you have a?
I mean, it's honestly all of the above. I think it just depends on the situation. I mean, obviously, live I'm not comping, but I think maybe it's about hitting some of the chord tones, leading into some of the the changes, making sure those are outlined properly. If there are some changes, if there aren't changes, or if it's maybe like a vamp or something, then finding kind of different ways to play inside and outside of the tonality and kind of stretch the harmony a little bit based around one chord. And yeah, some of that is theory based, and some of it's just kind of going off my ear, which I generally know what I'm doing most of the time. Gonna kind of explain it, but yeah, I mean, sometimes if it is a studio session, you like 50% of the solo is awesome, and then for whatever reason you just train wrecked, and it's like, yep, give me 2 bars, I'll play into it and comp it. I'm not ashamed to say that that's happened before. I feel like other people probably do that. Yeah. maybe not.
I'll sit there, open up a session in Logic, and just loop it and just play and play.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it too. So you get the take. Yeah, I mean, ideally, I would like everything to be in one take, and generally that is what happens. It's like, cool, that one's great, keep that one. But then every now and then it's like, oh, that last phrase just didn't quite happen. Just punch that in, and we're done. Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Which totally goes against what Jay Graydon said. Before there were Pro Tools, there were pros. Well, I guess I grew up in the amateur age. I guess I couldn't hack it back then, probably.
Technology is there for a reason, so
yeah,
might as well use it.
Sure.
I mean, we'll have singers come into the studio and they'll just sing it like total shit. And they're like, fix it in post. I'm like, how about you?
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. But if there's something that needs to be fixed and we can fix it, I'll fix it. But
that is the extreme of taking it the wrong.
Yeah, you got to be able to play a little bit.
So when you were discussing right there, the second part of the question, chord tones, harmony, all these different things. What was in the beginning, how studious were you to make all that stuff so readily part of your vocabulary? Obviously, you've been playing for years and years and years, but I think a lot of people who pick up the instrument in the beginning, it's overwhelming because there's so much material to wrap your head around, and I think all of us as guitarists,
right.
Certainly, I feel there's always more to learn. So yeah, what was your practice routine? When you first started?
I mean, I think a lot of it was learning songs by ear. That was a big thing for me, was just playing along to records and CDs and things like that. Not vinyl records, but CDs and stuff. Playing along to the radio. I used to just do that, like put on the classic rock station or pop station and just try to figure out each song as it came by. Or at least just solo over it or something. So a lot of it was just getting my ear together. And then, I had some teachers that would then explain the technical things about modes and stuff like that. But then we would put it into context. I think as soon as you learn a new theoretical concept, if you can figure out a musical place for it, it'll stick with you. I think that's where players struggle, is they just learn the theory, but if they don't know what to do with it, you won't be able to remember any of it or really internalize it. For me, a lot of it was like knowing how to do something and then having somebody be like, okay, actually what you're doing is this scale or this, sound or what have you. So yeah, I think a lot of it just kind of came from getting my ear together and then filling in the technical gaps in the terminology and stuff like that. But I'm still totally learning,
Is there anything
stuff
right now that you're kind of dipping your toe into, technique wise, or just trying to expand?
Well, I haven't really. My practice time is pretty limited, like just serious actual practicing. I try to write music a lot of the time, I mean, but most of the time if I'm here at home, I'm like working on something that's not for me. I'm doing a session or like learning tunes for something, or I guess in the sense that it is for me right now. I've been trying to bust my butt to finish a record of stuff that I'm writing. So like I'm practicing as it applies to like, how can I make this song cool? And but I guess this afternoon I was kind of working on some different like interval chord shapes, just because I got back from the session and was thinking like, oh, maybe I should have done this, and so I was working on some inversions and stuff like that. But I'm a pretty bad practicer, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, like that's probably the truth.
I think, I mean, if you're, I get what you're saying entirely. Growing up, I started playing guitar with a friend of mine, and he was incredibly studious and would learn like, not even like records back to front, but like whole catalogs back to front. Like,
Yeah, sure.
Floyd had learned every Pink Floyd song, get into Rage Against the Machine, learn every Rage, just like very diverse. And all the while he was doing that, I was writing songs, and we both progressed at the same way, but we were just finding different ways. I say to the students here, like, if I give you a homework assignment and you don't do it, but you played guitar all week, I'm not mad. You still play it.
Yeah. I mean, music is that's the kind of the beauty about music is like, man, you can practice one day a week. You could practice 10 hours a day. It's whatever you want. I mean, like, if just set if you want to set little goals for yourself and accomplish them that way. I think it just depends on what you want to do with it. Like, what kind of guitar player do you want to be? What do you want to sound like? Okay, you want to sound like Steve Vai? Well, you got to do all that stuff. Like, you got to learn, or you want to play blues like whoever. Well, go sit in a jam session and play some blues. Like, you got to find out what you want to do first, if you can. You might just like have fun. You might just want to have fun and make noise. Then have fun and make noise. So, I don't know.
No, man, it's completely correct. Out of all the songs and all the different gigs that you do, is there anything that has gone terribly wrong that comes to mind? I know.
I mean, like, I've definitely messed up like on big stages at important moments. Yeah, that sucks. So yeah, there's that. I mean, yeah, yes.
How do you overcome that? The reason that question is another one I ask often, because there's one particular instance that occurred with a particular student within our ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
They walked away because of it.
Right.
The fault of their own, but they 8 months later have yet to touch the instrument, and we're still in contact, so I know they're not doing it behind someone's back or anything. They just literally, I'm done with it.
Yeah. Well, maybe they are. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because it's interesting. Like, you don't have to perform music. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do that. You can just play music at your house, play music with your friends. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think somehow we got wrapped up in like music has to be done in a professional thing for it to matter. It's like, no, it doesn't. Like you don't have to play gigs. You don't have to do the high school talent show or do all these things that you don't really want to do. You don't want to do them, you know? So I guess for that person, I would say, if you just like music, if you just like playing your instrument, then just do that. No one should judge you if you don't want to perform or you don't want to do all those things. That's a whole other thing. I like performing because I like expressing myself that way and feeling a crowd express back and communicating live on stage with other musicians. Like, I like doing that. But if you don't like doing that, don't do it. You just play in your room. Who cares? Right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things, man. I just remember like being on stage for the first time after getting, the stage fright. And I played a little duet with my friend at our school talent show, and we both just had a really good time. And so I was like, well, this is fun. I want to keep doing that. But we could have very well have not had a very good time and maybe thought, maybe this isn't really for me. Or we could have thought, let's try again because I really want to like this. You know what I mean? And so like, that's the thing. I think if you are in the pipeline of performing and stuff like that, and you have a bad night, but the potential to have a better one is there, then just go have a better one.
Right.
You'll probably always remember that crappy show in the back of your mind and it'll just never go away. But maybe you'll learn something, like, well, it's because I wasn't prepared enough, or like I didn't take it seriously or whatever. There's usually some kind of reason for maybe why things, maybe not, maybe it was a big, who knows? But that's just the experience that you have to go through. Like, you have to fail. And if you really want to keep doing it, then keep doing it. If you don't want to keep doing it, then don't do it.
Right.
So.
No, that's incredibly true, and I hope she hears this because that's very good advice. Whenever I ask the question about something terribly wrong, I get sweaty because I remember my circumstance was I was playing an acoustic duo gig. It was a Tiny Dancer by Elton John, a acoustic guitar, and a vocalist. So I'm carrying a lot of weight on what I'm doing. And I don't remember what the chord was, the minuscule or the chord, something leading into the chorus. And from like the first 30 seconds into the song, I knew I didn't remember what this chord was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have my iPad in front of me. I'm pressing my pedal, trying to flip through my charts. It's not there. And as it got closer and closer, I knew that there was no way for me to fake it. If I just hit the root note of whatever it wasn't going to sound right. And it was horrible. And everybody knew it. And I'm still alive. I didn't die.
You're still here because, because in your walk, your direction, that like, well, you're going to do it again.
Right.
Some people may be like, this isn't for me. I don't want to do it. Right. And that's totally fine. Dude, like I think what's a bummer now is, it's great that people can record stuff on their phones and like we get all this cool content, like, but it also kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, can I just play the gig? Right. Sometimes I feel that way, and this is people probably watching this being like, this guy's just out of his mind. But you caught me on a Wednesday, so. But you know what I mean. So I get that there's a lot of people are probably afraid because they're like, what if I blow this and it becomes the new viral screw up sensation video that everyone's passing around all over Facebook and it has 5 million views.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the world we're in, and that I don't know if I like all that.
Yeah. Like, I feel it for like musicians of all levels. I took my son. Go on. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting.
No. You please.
No.
Well, I was just gonna say. I mean, there's footage. You could probably find every legendary artist, and there's probably some footage somewhere of them just eating it.
Yeah. Yeah. I took my son to go see Kiss in February. David Lee Roth was opening up.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Van Halen. I like David Lee Roth. I know what I'm going to see if I see him in 2020, but he had just done that Vegas residency, and the videos were just atrocious. It just was just laughably bad. And like, I was anxious because I wanted it to be great. And you know what? It was fantastic. Note for note, fantastic. So someone caught him on an off night.
Yeah.
And the whole world is laughing at the poor guy.
Right.
And guess what? It wasn't bad at all.
Right.
Oh, stone sober. I wasn't like, it just wasn't bad.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think if you are a performing individual, you don't have to be a professional, but if you do perform, you should have a lot of grace. You know what I mean? Like, and so I do. I see people go down in flames constantly. It's like, well, yeah, man, I've been there. No one is perfect every night. Nobody. I don't care who it is.
We're all on the same team.
Some people maybe just have not had it documented as much as others. But anyway,
that's very helpful. So you mentioned you're at the session today. Last week, the interview was Bumblefoot. He was talking.
Cool.
Yeah, he was great. I spoke with him 2 times as well. And
awesome.
So gracious and share. It was like this week was a music business seminar in essence, what he gave. But he was talking about sessions and placements and publishing and things like that. When you go into a session, is it like, is it specific groups that you work with in the past, or are you just getting calls and like, hey, I want your style on my record, and then how do you prepare for something like that?
Yeah, it's all the above. Today's was a thing that I did for a Christian television station that produces their own records. They actually have a morning show that has a house band that I'm a part of.
Wow.
And they do their own albums. And so I just was up there recording I think the track was actually by Planet Shakers maybe, and they were doing a cover of it. And so I just went up to the studio at the TV station with the producer and the engineer and just overdubbed it. And I hadn't heard it, so I wrote a chart, listened to it a couple times, wrote a chart, and then we just kind of got sounds and pieced it, kind of did like 2 takes down, and then went and stacked and tried things. And so that was today, and then I do a lot of stuff from here at the studio, which all just comes through email from various parts of the world, from people that I know and people I don't know. Yeah. And then, every now and then I'll do like maybe a band date or something like that for an artist, a singer. And yeah, it could be someone I know, could be someone I don't know.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's a cool life.
Well, it is cool. I'm grateful. I know maybe I'm sounding a little salty today about things, but no, the
whole world is salty right now.
Well, there's that. Yes.
That's the thing.
So yeah, it's good. It's a good scene.
Cool, man. It's the whole. I think I mentioned to you the last time, like the whole contemporary Christian Hillsong, that world. I didn't know anything about that until I stumbled upon a hashtag on Instagram. I was like, well, sick pedal boards. What's this about?
Right.
What's your experience in that world? Do you do a lot with that?
A little bit. Yeah. Not a ton. I mean, there are guitar players where that's kind of their specialty. But I'm aware of the style enough to kind of do what I need to do. And a lot of those techniques kind of overlap in pop and rock and stuff like that, because a lot of it kind of comes from the U2 sound and some other sounds, but
lots of reverb.
Yeah, I mean reverb, that sort of chime voicings that are real bright, and there's lots of delays and muted things, and but today I played some slide guitar, just some just not, I mean, I wasn't Derek Trucks in it or anything, but just some melodies and what?
Maybe you were.
No, I can't. Not that. I wasn't given that gift. But I did a lot of swells, finding like a nice upper register voicing and just, on the 4 chord of every, chorus, just that kind of thing, where you're just kind of arranging and painting pictures and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think, hearing stuff like that is inspiring because, again, when I started out, I was so one-dimensional as a player, and now I feel like kids picking up the guitar are so not that, because they're just immersed with what, you're scrolling through your Instagram and you see one person tapping and then another person doing this, another person doing that, and it's just all right there.
Right.
Tying it back to the beginning with the Steely Dan and stuff like that, it was through playing in wedding bands I got turned on to funk and Motown and soul and disco, which is really fun guitar music.
Totally. Yeah.
It's like 18-year-old me is fighting me right now for saying that, but it's a
right.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thank you so much for your time. I
No
would try.
problem, man.
I feel like we've covered so much, and I feel very, very grateful for
Cool.
hanging with you again.
Yeah. Well, I hope your students dig this, man.
I definitely think they will. We'll get this up on the podcast with 24 hours. So they can all check it out, and I directly send them this video too. So
Cool.
I'm not watching it live, but they'll get a copy of it. So
Awesome.
thank you, sir. Stay super safe.
You too, Rob.
In the future, hopefully there will be gigs, and then I will.
Yeah. All right, man. Take care of yourself, dude. Thanks again.